This is James Robertson with Cincom Systems. I thought I'd go through my own little demonstration of the Web Velocity pre-alpha stuff, just like Michael did. The slight difference is he went through the canonical weblog example. I'm going to instead take a look at this tutorial here that was put out on Seaside 2.8 and using Squeak 3.10. I'm going to do parts of this using the Web Velocity stuff that we've been talking about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and first I'll show you that I have a database here. So we'll wait for the Postgres admin tool to pop its way up. And you can see here in Postgres I've got a table called to-dos. I've got some simple columns, ID, title, description, whether it's completed, created time, and due date. So that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and summon up a browser on the server. And what you see in Web Velocity is you see this kind of launcher type thing here, and I'm going to create a new application. And I'm going to call this to-do app and hit OK on that. And now I've got my application. I need to go to the database setup. Now we're going to see a slight error here just like you saw in Michael's thing, but I'm going to go ahead and link this to Postgres. I'm going to tell it that the database is sitting on localhost 5432 Postgres and username Postgres. I didn't give it a login, but hit this and you'll see an error. I'm going to ignore that for the moment though. Let's go ahead and create a new persistent model. Now by persistent model I mean a class that will link back to the database. So let's call this class to-do and we'll give that an OK. And it goes ahead and creates some default forms for this, the edit UI, list UI, and view UI. But let's go back up here for just a moment. And now we'll look at database setup. Everything seems to be set up okay now. Look at database mappings. It's mapped the ID variable which was inherited from the Active Records framework, but we need to do other things. So let's go down here to to-do and we'll add some variables. So I'm going to add a variable called completed and I'll say OK on that. I'm going to add another variable called created, say OK on that. We'll add another variable called do, say OK to that, and finally we'll add title, and then we'll add our description. And that should give us everything that the database has. So let's go back up here, and we'll now look at the database mappings, and you see it was smart enough to map everything over. And the database setup is still okay. The other thing I can do though is I can go back here to the application, go to the overview, and you see a bunch of links that it's already set up for me. Let's go ahead and hit the HTML link, and it gives me a default screen where I can have my to-dos. So let's go ahead and create a new one. And you notice here I have no editor for the Boolean field, for the timestamp fields. Let's just go ahead and say do a simple demo. And the description is doing it now. We will hit save. And you notice that it didn't give me anything for these fields. And the reason it didn't give me anything for those fields is I didn't initialize anything. So here they all are. Let's go ahead and delete that just for jollies. And we'll go back to the code. So let's go back out here and we'll go to class to do. And we'll go to the source code. Initialize, and in here I'm going to put in a simple method. Initialize, super initialize, and then I'm going to initialize some fields. Completed should be set up to false, and then created should be set up to say timestamp now. And let's just do something simple for do. We'll say do gets assigned date today, add days 10 as timestamp. So we'll put that off in the future. Now I can hit Control S and the web frame does actually understand that, and I've now got this. So let's go back out to the top and we'll go to this again. We'll say new. Now we'll say still trying to do the demo. Will it work? And we'll try saving it. And sure enough, I've got the created date here, the due date off in the future, and everything's over here. Let me move this over. You can see I've got that stuff in there. So that seemed to work. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to follow along with the tutorial and see how much more I can get done in the general framework of what they did with that tutorial on the website, and we'll follow that in the next few days and weeks.